Thank you, Teresa.
Mhm.
This is a work session that's been planned for Planning Commission applicant interviews. I want to welcome everybody. Turn that off. And I will go ahead at this time and turn it over to our Community Development Director, Gail Hendrickson, to start us off.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Board. We have a planning commission. Your planning commission consists of 7 members that are appointed by your board. And as of June 30th of this year, we have 3 of those positions that will be expiring. Those terms are 4-year terms. They begin on July 1st and then run for 4 years through June 30th. The 3 positions that are going to be expiring include that of Nadia Gardner, who currently serves as the chair of the Planning Commission, John Orr, who was previously our vice chair, and Lum Kwong. Only Lum asked to be reappointed at this point. Neither Nadia Gardner nor John Orr submitted applications to be reappointed. So we have three positions, one of which the applicant has requested to be reappointed, sorry. We do have 7 other applicants as well. Those include Brian Allen, Jeremy Linder, Michael Magyar, Daniel Penley, Katie Pritchard, Jennifer Rasmussen, and Jackson Ross. And of those 8, 2 did RSVP and say that they were unable to attend today's interviews, and that included Brian Allen and Katie Pritchard. Jennifer Rasmussen has a meeting at 2:30. She will be joining, but she may be a little bit late. But otherwise, we have Jackson Ross, Mike Magyar, Jeremy Linder, and Lum Kwong, and Daniel Penley, who are all here today. I did post the questions in the chat box in case anybody wants to pull that up as well, so you can have those to reference. And after our interviews this afternoon, we'll be bringing this back to a work session before your board on June 8th, and then potentially with the appointments formally occurring the regular meeting on June 22nd. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions of Community Development Director Hendrickson? Commissioner Banks?
No question. I just wanted to let you guys know that Katie personally reached out to me and let me know that she was in Alaska and internet service is spotty. So unless she has her satellite phone, that's the only way she can actually do anything. And she didn't want to waste the minutes. It's expensive. So anyhow, just letting everyone know.
Thank you for that update, Commissioner Banks. Any other questions, comments from the board? Commissioner Toyoka and then Commissioner Thompson. Commissioner Toyoka.
Good afternoon, everyone. Just a quick thank you to all the applicants. Really appreciate you're coming for the this process. It's been very I've only been through one other before, but it's been very helpful, and it's great to see you and engage before we actually have to make decisions. So thank you very much. And a question for either Gail or County Council is occupation. We already have 2 contractors with surveyor, general contractor. We have any conflicts that we have to worry about?
You do. You have, under state statute, you can only have 2 members who are of the same profession and or involved in the buying, selling, developing of real estate. So right now, both Carrie Johnson and Jason Krauscher are on the Planning Commission, and they're both listed as general contractors. And so Brian Allen also is listed as a general contractor. If you were to want to appoint Mr. Allen, you would need to unappoint either Mr. Johnson or Mr. Krauscher. The other item that you need to consider is that we, under our current bylaws, permit 2 members from incorporated areas on our Planning Commission. Right now, we will have Chris Farrar, who's from unincorporated Astoria, and then we will have, with Mr. Orr's resignation at the end of his term, there will still be an opening if you wanted to appoint 1 more member from an incorporated area. And we do have, I believe, 3 applicants from incorporated areas, which include Ms. Pritchard, Mr. Penley, and Mr. Ross.
Thank you. Commissioner Thompson?
I just mentioned that I can't see in the chat box the questions. So if they're there, I could have a technological issue, but I don't see the questions in our chat box.
Sorry, yeah, that's because the chat box is locked, so I can chat with Teresa, but I can't chat with anybody else. Sorry about that.
Oh,
And just a follow-up regarding the contractor, is a surveyor considered a general contracting type business? Like, what umbrella are we putting that in?
So this question came up during our last set of interviews and appointments, and County Council made a determination that a surveyor was not part of land development, so therefore there would not be a conflict.
Thank you for that clarification. Any other questions, comments? Maybe to get the ball rolling, if there are no objections, I could just read the first question to go down the line and then, okay, sounds good. Okay, we'll start with Jeremy Linder. Jeremy, why are you interested in serving on the Planning Commission? And what is your understanding of the legal role of the commission? Any financial conflicts of interest or ethical requirements of the position? Jeremy.
Can you hear me all right? Okay. My interest for the Planning Commission came about actually within the last year. And what kind of catapulted it was the homeless issue that we've been dealing with all across the county. And I tend to think, about how to fix things, even if I'm not really involved with it. And I do know some developers and some builders and some contractors. And I started asking them questions, and I said, it seems to me like if the process of, development and, building homes and doing that was made easier, that would certainly help. And they pretty much told me all the same thing, that they felt like the process at times was cumbersome and some of the things made it very expensive, and that was sort of a deterrent to it. So that's why I'm here today. As far as your other questions, I'm sorry, could you go back up to?
Yeah, what is your understanding of the legal role of the Planning Commission? Any financial conflicts of interest or any ethical requirements?
As far as the legal role, I mean, I'm not a constitutional scholar, but I kind of take the Planning Commission to be more of an advisory panel, a citizen advisory panel. And I think that's extremely important, that you have sort of a buffer between county staff that are in the trenches with this stuff, 40 hours a week, all the time, and the commission that doesn't deal with it every single day. So I don't believe that we would have a direct role in necessarily creating policy, but I would hope that we could definitely have a role in shaping policy. As far as conflicts of interest go, I can't think of any that I would have, but that being said, I think whether it's financial or otherwise, that certainly has to be disclosed up front. And there's probably some issues where, may end up being having to recuse myself if that came up.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead. Do you have something else? Yes.
Was there one more part to your question?
It was just the ethical requirements of the position. I think you kind of answered that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Jeremy. Appreciate it. Mike Magyar. Hi, Mike. I know you've served on the, I can't hear you. There
Good
you are.
afternoon. Yeah, thanks for having us all show up here. I'll answer your question. I chose to reapply to be a planning commissioner because I miss doing the commission work that I did a few years ago. I took a break. I've got a 13-month-old, and I think that maybe things sort of seem like they're kind of under control right now, enough for me to try to devote some time to things. One thing that I really enjoyed, the reason that I want to do this again is, and this is going to sound goofy, but I really like our county planning staff and the people that I served with on the commission. And I thought they just did an excellent job. And it's nice to be in that little envelope of competency. And as somebody who meets a lot of people across this county who have interactions with lots of different municipalities on land use decisions, there's one thing I know for sure, that the county staff is excellent, the reports are excellent, and I enjoy working on the process of citizen involvement. That's why I want to do it. What is the Planning Commission legally? Well, I think I'm just going to read straight off of Article 2 of the object. It's the Planning Commission shall make recommendations to the Board of the Clatsop County Commissioners. We, the board, the Planning Commission serves at your pleasure. End of story. So we have limited roles. We have guidance, but we do serve the commissioners on the comprehensive plan and its implementing ordinances. And we also make land use decisions on variances, conditional uses, and subdivisions, and so on and so forth. So that's what we're there to do. I sometimes half jokingly tell people, and you can take this for what it's worth, that I'm sort of I like to read the documents from the planners, and basically if it looks good and they're following the rules, following the laws, following the code, I think it looks good, and I'm going to probably like it. I don't really, as a person who is not an advocate, right? I am not trained as an advocate, as a land surveyor. I don't advocate for anybody. That training itself, I think, to answer your ethical question, I think really sort of helps make it easy for me to just think about these kinds of things, because I just don't really see things like that. I'm just not an advocate. And so ethically, I like to follow the code. I like the code. I like the report. I like to read about it. And that's my decision making. As far financial interests, I have none. I've got no dog in the game. I mean, I'm doing all I can to support my family. I'm not in land development. I provide professional services. I help people do a lot of different things, but I'm certainly willing, if the opportunity exists, to recuse myself if I think that I cannot make a decision because of the circumstances of an applicant or an application or any other thing. I think I answered your question. Did I miss something?
No, I think you got it.
All
Thanks,
right, thank
Mike.
you.
Next is Dan Penley. You want me to read the question, Dan?
Thank you. No, sir, I have it in front of me. I was just
Okay.
given a second to close out. Thank you all to the board for this opportunity, first and foremost. Why am I interested? So I've recently kind of transitioned from a normal full-time 9-to-5 job and moving into owning my own business, which has really given me the flexibility to take opportunities like this, to serve in the public and do volunteer work, participate in chamber events and things of that nature. And I think that this commission is just another opportunity for me to further my effort towards that goal. As far as my understanding of the legal obligations of the commission, I can only go by like what Mike was just saying, what's stated. The commission offers recommendations to the Board of Commissioners on amendments and the comprehensive plan and implementing ordinances, but does make some decisions on land use, conditional use, subdivisions, and that nature. So, I mean, surrounding that, I'm not a land use expert. I certainly think that there's a lot of value in somebody who would want this kind of position to have that expertise, but I also think there's value in people who are coming from a place where they don't have any biases towards any side of that fight, that can come in and be as unbiased and objective as possible and make decisions purely for the greater good of the county and what the comprehensive plan has laid out for us. As far as potential conflicts of interest, I don't have any. I'm in the technology sector. Again, I don't have any history in land use. I don't have any interest in buying, selling, or developing property or anything like that. So I think, for myself and hopefully anybody else who would be on the commission, it would be incumbent upon themselves to attack every potential conflict as a case arises, and recuse themselves as necessary and have a discussion about it if there is any question and everybody come up with a decision from there.
Thank you, Dan. And then Lam Kwong? Is that correct?
Yes, I'm here. My name is Lam Kwang. I have been on the planning commission for the last 2 years. Very green as far as experience, but I am very compassionate and passionate about our little world out here. We have such a special place of people and land and resources out here that I would love to help to protect and to continue for us to thrive. I represent a little corner out here on Lewis and Clark. As far as bias is concerned, I guess I'm somewhat biased toward wanting to save our forests and our river and our our land, whether it be dry land or wetland. We need to conserve for not just for us, but for generations to come. So that's my point of view. As far as the supporting the county commissioners, I think that's pretty well explained by other candidates. We are here to serve the commissioners, but we also are serving the citizens of this county. And I'm an artist. I don't really have much of conflicts as far as land use goes. Yeah, so that's my experience, and that's my thought. Thank you.
Thank you, Lom. And then next, Jack Ross. Jack, do you need me to repeat the question? Can't hear you, Jack. It's still on mute there.
There we are. Sorry
There you
about that. No, I don't need the question repeated. Thank you. My interest in serving on the Planning Commission is to participate in decisions on land use issues in support of environmental security, and for the future generations to have access to the wealth of the natural resources, the wealth of natural resources we have in our environment. The legal role, first and foremost, to be sure we're following existing law, check with counsel if there's any question about something before us, and that we make recommendations to the Board of Commissioners on the comprehensive plan and its ordinances. Financial conflicts of interest, I have none. I'm retired. I do own a little bit of rental property in town, but I'm not actively involved in buying or selling or developing real estate. Ethical requirements. Describe any ex parte relationship that I have on any matter that might come before us as a commission, but I almost never, I'm currently a commissioner for the city on historic landmarks. So from time to time, I either have a neighbor that has an action before us or a building that I'm aware of, and I simply explain that and decide whether or not it has any bearing on my ability to be fair. Ethical requirements, I think that's covering it, and financial conflicts, really none.
Thank you very much, Jack. We'll go ahead and start back up at the top. We've got our second question here, and this is to you, Jeremy. How would you define and support ecologically sustainable economic development?
That's a big question. I think I'll try to keep it sort of brief. It's my understanding that ecologically sustainable economic development is looking at the protection of the environment and the preservation of natural resources long-term for future generations, considering any sort of economic development and making sure that those two don't have a conflict. I'm a third generation cattle rancher. And I don't know if you guys are aware, but when you're a farmer or a rancher, the protection of your land, that is your livelihood. That's what you have. And that's what allows you to do what you do. And so I definitely understand that being a good steward of the land is of utmost importance. And I also think that, if there's some sort of proposed development or project coming up, that one, we have to look at that. Two, we have to look at the state of Oregon has been really good about coming up with all sorts of guidelines that need to be followed. And I think that, those are the first two things that we start with. And if, those two boxes are checked, then we get down to the county level and look at that stuff. But that's sort of my understanding of it.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jeremy. Next, we'll go to Mike. Mike, do you need me to repeat the question?
Commissioner Quila, I do not. I am not trained at all in sustainable policy or management. So I did some research. I've got some friends who do this for business, and they pointed me in a bunch of different directions. So I'm going to read something from Dr. Stephen Cohen. He's the director of the research program on sustainability policy and management at Columbia University's Earth Institute. There are 2 paragraphs. They're essentially summaries of bigger ideas, but this is what I'm going to say. The climate problem is not caused by economic growth, but by the absence of effective public policy designed to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. There is nothing incompatible with capitalism and environmental protection as long as rules are in place that control the environmental impacts of the products and services we make and use. With those rules in place, a concern for environmental sustainability can and will permeate everyday decision-making in the private, nonprofit, and governmental organizations we all benefit from. So it's sort of 2 sides of the coin, which is kind of how I look at it. And I'm going to close with sloppy management, the hunger for easy money, and short-term profits and ideological rigidity lead some to believe the environment must be sacrificed for economic growth. On the other hand, the belief that capitalism is evil and inevitably causes environmental destruction leads others to believe that sustainable economic development is not feasible. My view, or the view of Stephen Cohen, but my view as well, is that with enlightened design, sustainability management, and cutting-edge technology, we can harness human ingenuity to the practical problems of environmentally sustainable economic development. We can build and live in sustainable cities and end the climate and ecological crisis that seem so overwhelming today. So without getting into all those details, and we're not creating policy. I'm not going to create any environmental policy. There's no way I'm going to even begin to think about it. So we'll just follow the rules as best we can and try to keep cattle ranchers from going out of business and try to keep the air nice. So that's the best I can hope for.
Thank you, Mike. Dan Penley?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. My definition that I came up with for ecologically sustainable economic development is that it means having policies and regulations and procedures in place that necessarily require an examination of the impacts of a project on the environment as part of the decision-making process. And as part of that examination, I believe strongly that stipulations should exist to ensure that quantifiable measures of ecological assets as a result of the development should be net zero or greater. For any diminished value caused by the construction or excavation or other activities related to the development process, an equal or greater value of ecological assets should be provided for or conserved where it otherwise might not have been. And there's a lot of examples I could give as far as what that means. Also, kind of something that I hadn't thought of, but Mr. Magyar kind of reminded me of. I think being an advocate for using alternative energy methods, whether it's solar or wind or whatever, and things along those lines are also things that really need to be considered and advocated for when it comes to making these kind of decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Lam Kwong? Same question. Do you need me to repeat the question?
No, I think I have a grasp on it. Well, I guess my view is more of really, I understand the need for economic growth and sustained economic growth of us, a community, and our the people that live here. But there are, we are coming down to the environmental changes coming so quickly at us because we have neglected, because we have just used and harvest all the resources so quickly that that the environment coming back and starting to tell us that we need to look out and to be able to sustain the environment as much as we can. I know there's our state law that we can't surpass because of the logging and all that. I understand that. I also understand that we have a pretty limited role that what we can do, but as far as erring on the ecological side, I definitely will err on that side of it. Yeah, thank you for the question.
Thank you, Long. And then Jack Ross, same question.
Thank you. How would I define in ecological, sustainable economic development? Prevent environmental degradation, provide intergenerational equity in our resources. There's a principle called the precautionary principle, where if we don't know the ecological outcome of a decision that's before us, that we do our best with science and whatever other assets we have in the county to get that answer and understand what we're doing. And if we don't know for sure what the impact is, to err on the side of protection and not make a decision that might degrade our environment. Not really directly responsive, but one thing that has excited me in recent months, and I realize it's perhaps city more than county in this little bit of an example, but with the brewing industry just being responsible for processing some of their own wastewater rather than assuming it can be dealt with at the city level, has been a good example of how a planning commission might make a recommendation to effect change before we grant land use, make sure that we're doing what we can to protect the environment.
Thank you very much, Jack. And
Thank you.
thank you to everybody. That's the end of our questions, but I'll open it up to my fellow commissioners if they have any other questions or comments they'd like to make at this time. Commissioner Thompson?
Well, I think it's a good meeting if I walk away smarter than I was when I came in. So I want to thank everyone today because listening to your discussion was really wonderful. I appreciate that you're bringing your diverse points of view and your diverse interest to this and helping us as the governing body look at how we authorize the members of the Planning Commission to inform and support us. Someone pointed at the advisory role and the role of bringing public input to the board. I think the board, this is a tangent, I think the board ought to look at how we get public input distinct from land use planning issues. That's a discussion for another day, but I appreciate that someone brought it up. And I think that whoever we select, we are well served by all of you who came here today, and I thank you for that.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. Any other comments from the board? Commissioner Webb?
Yes, I too would like to thank all of the applicants. What a wonderful slate of candidates. this is. I continue always to be thrilled at the extent to which our community has such capable citizens who are willing to come forward and spend a significant amount of their time helping us out. And so I think virtually every one of you would be a wonderful candidate. I think it's going to be a very, very tough choice. Thanks so much for doing this.
Thank you, Commissioner Webb. Any other questions, comments? If not, I want to thank all of the candidates. As been mentioned before, I think we are truly blessed to have such very qualified individuals applying for the Planning Commission, and we would be served very well by any one of you joining the board. So thanks so much for participating in the interview process, and then we'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting, and we'll be taking this up at a regular commission meeting. I don't know if that's the next week, or I'll have to consult with Gail about exactly when this is coming back, but Gail, what is the process?
Yes, so the next date that we'll talk about this will be June 8th at a work session, just to have a little bit more discussion. And then the formal appointments would occur on June 22nd.
Great. Thank you for clarifying that. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good
Thank you.
rest of your Monday.
Thank you. Bye.